It is great to see you here again. My name is Luc de Kuster, founder of the Kuster Academy. And in this lesson, in this video, I will talk about active and effective listening. But before we continue, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. So let's have a look at this new topic. Now, what about the project manager and listening? Now, when we talk about listening, we must consider two kinds of listening that the project manager should master in order to communicate properly. We call it active and effective listening. Active listening is when the listener, the receiver, tries to understand the message of the sender as clearly as possible. Effective listening is when the receiver tries to understand the perspective of the speaker and empathizes with the person. Now, both skills enable the project manager to understand the interest of every stakeholder and how to align these interests to achieve the goals and objectives of the project. What is the problem with listening effectively? There are a lot of courses that talk about effective listening, and still a lot of people are not able to apply it. The main reason is that most people only see the world from their own perspective or in one dimension. We cannot empathize with them, we see it only from our side and not from the other side. The inability to listen with both sides of the brain causes basically this miscommunication, misinterpretation and miscalculation. It is a brain-related issue where the two parts of the brain are in fact not cooperating. Typically, left and right-hand side of the brain have different functions. The left side emphasizes facts, logic, discipline and precision, while the right side of the brain emphasizes emotions and sensory perception. So when you're only using one of them, you're missing out on the other parts of the message. Now we can look at the 4 steps of effective and active listening. In order to listen well, it's important, in fact, that the project manager or any person involved in communication and applying active and effective listening, you have to in fact perform 4 actions or follow 4 actions. First, you have to hear what the people is saying. Then you have to clarify the message. The next step is to interpret the message. And finally, you have to respond to the message. But let's have a look at all those 4 items in detail. First of all, hear. The thing we have to do here is to allow the other person to talk. We don't want to interrupt them unless there is something really important, but typically we let the other person speak. Clear your mind of all possible distractions, thoughts, phone, computer. It can sometimes be difficult when you have a lot of personal issues or other issues that are going on. Telephones that are there, people watching the computer. We have those smart watches that tell us every time we have a message. These are all ways or possible distractions. We try to clear the environment of all possible distractions. When you have a meeting room, you try to be a little bit isolated from the rest of the environment just to be sure that you can listen to the people. We encourage the speaker to talk clearly and use verbal and non-verbal clues. Of course, it depends a little bit on the speaker and the training, but it's very important that when you are sending a message, that you use all those verbal and non-verbal clues. You focus on the speaker, you try to make eye contact. Very important to see that you are engaged in listening, that you are taking the person seriously, and you listen to the content of the message, not how it is said. So you want to find the content. Model the speaker's physical behavior to encourage talking. This is also a little bit what they call in emotional intelligence, mirroring. Now, mirroring in some cases can create some bad feeling from the other person. You have to observe all the verbal and non-verbal clues. It's very important that you observe them and that you see or understand what the person is trying to say to you verbally and non-verbally. Now, you have to recognize that hearing is psychological and a physiological process. It's two parts that we are doing. It's psychological and physiological. You have to understand the influence of verbal and non-verbal communications. There are trainings that can help you to deal with that. Strive to avoid stereotypes and prejudgments. Oh, he's an idiot. We don't like it. It's always the same thing. And sometimes, okay, the person may not behave the way you like, but we want to understand the message. When you want to encourage the speaker to continue talking, the best way to do is use open-ended questions. A question when you say yes, no, it doesn't bring you anything. You have to find ways to ask questions so that the speaker does not stop talking. Of course, once the message is shared, we stop talking. It's not that we're talking indefinitely. The second thing is to clarify. We have to clarify what is the message about. We have to acknowledge the feelings behind the message, and we want to clarify, so we have to ask questions to obtain more details. We avoid rhetoric questions or questions that you already know the answer of. So when you ask a question but you already know the answer, you may in fact, you're losing time. Rhetoric questions, you don't get an answer. It doesn't bring anything to you. You have to have the open questions so that the person can clarify the message. Wait to formulate conclusions until the speaker finishes. So when you stop the speaker earlier, you try to get conclusions before, it's not really working. You may not have all the information, and the best way is to wait till the speaker finishes. Be cognizant of the speaker's choice and application of words. Encourage feedback through questioning. Follow up on cliches and platitudes. Look for indicators of selective perception on either side, the project manager or the speaker. Look for synchronicity between what was said and body language. When you say something, you can see if it's not confirmed by the body language, there may be something wrong. The person may not be telling the truth. Or the body language is just not good and is not supporting the message, even when the message is correct. You have to keep open a two-way communication to keep on talking. You have to paraphrase what was said and verify for accuracy. So when you paraphrase the message, you can verify if your understanding was accurate or not. Think critically about what was said, but avoid critical behavior and try to separate assumptions from facts and data. So that's the clarify part. Let's now have a look at the interpretation part. Here we look at the interpretation, and we have to avoid to taking what the speaker says at face value by looking at feelings as well as body language. Communicate your interpretation and verify its accuracy. Concentrate on facts and data, not on perceptions. Distinguish between assumptions, facts, and data. Identify the main ideas and pay attention again to nonverbal communication and try to identify the sincerity of what is being said and recognize the influence of one's thoughts and perceptions. Step 4 is to respond. So the first thing you have to do is that you have to be sincere when you are offering help. You have to conduct a follow-up if necessary on any resulting request by the project manager or the speaker. The follow-up is very important that you do that. Demonstrate a physiological, for example, body language and psychological response. exhibit empathy rather than sympathy, exhibit verbal and nonverbal clues that build bridges rather than walls between the project manager and the speaker, and seek for feedback on your response. So these are the elements about active and effective listening, and it's very important to understand these principles when you're engaging in communication with people. That was it for this video. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.